Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a very special guest. Well, everyone is a special guest to me. I'm joined by my good friend, Meg Pollard. You still go by Meg Pollard, correct? Or you have okay, good.
To this day, we're in process of name change, but yeah.
Okay, good. I want to make sure I'm accurate with, fact check myself because, but I'm going to read. I usually have my guests introduce themselves. But the way she created this, I feel like I do her some justice. I think it sounds really good. So I'm going to read it. So Meg Pollard is a seasoned entrepreneur, and I probably pronounced that wrong, business consultant and speaker. She's the owner of We Choose Joy, a business consulting firm focused on leadership development, company culture, and customer experience. She is also the co-founder of Etc. Coordinators, Etc. Coordinators, an exclusive 6-week wedding coordination boutique in the DC metropolitan area. After losing her husband tragically in 2015, Meg inspired the We Choose Joy hashtag movement, sharing her transparent journey of healing and hope. Megan is a proud mother of Marin and Gray and wife of John, who just celebrated their 1-year anniversary this May. Thank you so much. I mean, that was a wonderful bio. I think it's a really good feed into the episode. Is there, with that introduction, is there anything left out to introduce yourself to the listeners?
I don't know. I think that I was trying to give, it's always good to try to give a summary of a little bit about what you're doing day to day, a little bit about what got you where you are now and what that looks like so that people can kind of start painting a picture. I think it's important. I have multi-faceted interests and I chase multiple things at once. It's something that's always been a part of my DNA and my nature. Figuring out how to balance those and how to prioritize those have also been a huge part of the journey. I think that probably leads us to our conversation today.
And I love it. And so one of my questions is kind of leading the background. You are an entrepreneur. I probably pronounced that wrong. I like to say really hard, entrepreneur. But you've had a variety of experiences in the business world. What kind of led you to being your own, as we know, entrepreneurship is being your own boss, having your own businesses. So how did you kind of tell for the background? How did you tell into having your own businesses, plural?
So I grew up in an environment with an entrepreneur. So my dad started multiple businesses and that was just the environment I was raised in. I mean, I knew, back in the day, there was only one landline. You didn't have an office line. He worked from the house. So like at 9, I was, DVM Corporation, how can I help you? I was used to taking those messages and making sure that they got into his inbox or whatever. So it's something that I was always really familiar with. I don't think that I really thought about starting a business had it not been for my very first business partner, who we were working together in a catering company, and she was like, so I'm doing this and you should totally do this with me. And I was like, who, me? So, I really have to kind of give her credit for talent spotting, I suppose, and pulling me into a place that I wasn't probably comfortable at that time. But once I got bit by the bug, that was it. We started that business in 2008 and I stayed there until 2015. That business is still going like phenomenally. It's super strong, which is awesome. And then I started my second business with my co-founder, Etc. And that was in 2014 with my business partner, Brittany Hageman. And, that's doing well. Obviously it's having struggles in the event industry due to COVID and like current scenarios, but fortunately it's really pressure tested how we built the business. And I'm pleased with its result and how we've been able to sustain this. And then this recent launch of We Choose Joy, all the while, I work alongside a number of businesses ranging from e-com and hospitality groups focusing on empowering and developing world-class customer experience. So, to say I have a few pots on the stove is a bit of an understatement, but they all have their lanes,
I love it.
Yeah.
Did you also, can you give us a background of your formal education? I mean, college, whatever. And did you feel like this formal education prepared you for this? Or, kind of like, you're like, I totally different something like, and for instance, I'm sharing that I'm a history major in undergrad. I probably have nothing, I'm not doing quote unquote, stereotypically anything related to my major, but I've learned some skills, about talking to people, presentations out of my major that like in hindsight, like, wow, that actually had a connection, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of that kind of pivot.
It's such a good question that you asked, actually, because this is a question I used to avoid. I did not graduate college, and that used to be a place of, it really got in my way. It was in my head for a long time of thinking that I wasn't capable. I didn't have the skill set because I didn't have a degree. And actually, one of my business mentors was really one that was like, so when are you going to like drop this and like keep going? Like, when is this going to, I'm pretty tired of hearing it,
Yes.
And that was a really great opportunity. I think I would say my education has really come most by me surrounding myself with some really rock star people, as well as investing in my own education in the areas that I am interested in. So I have completed a number of different leadership courses and schools and things that are more in line with, like, there's an immediate response. I'm able to practice it right away.
I love that. I love that.
I think there's such a need for education, but I think that for our specialists, for sure, but it wasn't for me. I needed to be with my sleeves rolled up and my hands in the dirt much faster than I think an education would have provided me, a formal education. So.
I think you're a great example of the pupil of the School of Hard Knocks. You know what I'm saying? And shout out, I put my friends in there. One of my biggest mentors, fatherhood wise, Sam Hardman. Yeah. We did a business episode. He also is a shining example of how that is, I'm probably, shaming my own, hey kids, I work in higher ed, but you don't need to go here. Like I said, because you can get some education from the world can educate you as well as formal education. I think you nailed it on the head. If there's certain specific industries that you need a degree, like, a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever, to practice. But in regards to entrepreneurship and being a business owner, it's more like, I think, life experiences, right? And you're a good example of that.
It's not saying it's easier. I think that's an important thing too, is that, higher education provides a really beautiful path and also a great opportunity to explore yourself, as you're learning and trying to figure out what it is. It's also getting very expensive these days. So I think that has to be taken into account. Yes. But if you have the drive, if you have that interest and you're not afraid of some hard work, I mean, Google provides tons of information.
Well, you gotta be, okay. I will say this though. I had to interrupt. Just, be very discerning though, because you're not going to get a degree from YouTube. You know what I'm saying? You ever heard those people that had the little meme, like, I got my degree from YouTube, and they fight you on Facebook, and you're like, yo, where are they getting their sources from? And you realize they're just watching a bunch of YouTube videos. So please use some discernment. Use some discernment when you use Google. But you definitely can learn a lot from the internet. I totally agree. So I want to kind of pivot because, Positive Philter, I think, directly aligns with the We Choose Joy hashtag. I love that movement. I love the aspect of choosing joy, that agency, that I had the power to put in my own mindset and hands, choosing joy. Can you take us to the how that started, how that movement started for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting. And I've been asked this before, how did you choose this, or how did this happen? I'm like, honestly, it chose us. So what happened was the very first Thanksgiving after Jason, my late husband, had passed, I was really struggling. I was really having a hard time. And, there's so much responsibility to lead. The girls were young at that age, they're 5 and 7. To lead. And I had committed in my mind, not to anybody else, but I committed in my mind that I was going to be posting regularly on social media and things because we had a massive community come around us. And I felt it was important that I continued to show that we were doing okay. It felt really important to me to make sure that they knew that their effort wasn't wasted and that I wasn't going to, that I was going to absorb it all. So I was trying to find something to post, and I was just really like not there mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to go look for a quote or something that could inspire me and be where I wanted to be. And I really wanted to be in a state of gratitude. I wasn't there. I needed a leg up, right? So I come across this quote. It says, thankfulness is the soil in which joy thrives. And I thought, yep. Okay, that's it. Being grateful, this is going to get me to joy. That's where I want to be. So I posted the quote, and then I just posted this hashtag, we choose joy, because that was such a decision in that moment for me that I wasn't there. I wasn't in a state of joy, but that's where we were going. And then what ended up happening was it just like everything seemed to change. Every time we were doing something where I was making an active decision, okay, we might not be in a state of joy right now, but damn it, I'm going to get there. I would hashtag we choose joy. And then it started becoming where other people would see the word joy, or they would see choose joy or whatever, and they would send it to us. And so then all of a sudden I'm getting all this like outside feedback of people being like, oh, we saw joy and we thought of you today. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. People are now aligning our story, which could have very easily been labeled as tragic, with joy.
Yes.
And it's because, we went and searched for it. We put it out there. People saw us and like that partnered together. We're getting shirts and postcards and like all these sort of things. But the biggest thing that happened was with my girls. They started looking for joy. They started finding the signs. They started finding the words. They started, adopting it as their own. And that completely changed each step in each day moving forward. It was, we became like joy hunters, you know what I mean? Where it was like,
I love that.
Like, where can we do this? Because we realized it was like, what we were putting out was coming back, and we so desperately wanted that healing and so desperately needed to get to a place of just pure happiness. And so it really just spun from there. It's pretty amazing.
Now, what I heard though, is that when you first originated this movement, it was more to put on a front for the world that you were doing okay. Because I heard you say, I had to put something out there. When did you start taking ownership where it was like, I don't care, it's not for them, it's not for this appearance, for the external world, that like this is a mantra or something I'm holding on for myself and for my tribe, for my family. Like, like this is mine now, not for show for the world, but this is actually internal or intrinsic.
For sure. It's when it became an actual mind shift for us. It was very much like I knew we were going to be okay. I wasn't sure how. I didn't know how we were getting there. I wanted to give confidence to the world that we were going to be okay. I hadn't figured out the steps yet.
Yes.
At that point, I was still like, it's going to be okay. But like, we were squeaking along, and it wasn't anything I owed the rest of the world. It's just something I wanted to give back. I did feel and always will feel completely indebted to those that chose to lift us up on their shoulders at that time, forever. But it was once I started realizing, when that mind shift happened and I saw it spark in the girls, that's what gave me direction. Once I had direction, then I was like, okay, this is ours. This led me to the steps that I needed to start taking that I couldn't find before.
Yes. Well, so obviously this is a day-to-day journey, life journey. What are some day-to-day life stressors that challenge this mantra, that really get you to have to think about it and go back to that mantra, because I could see, that as life goes on, and this is a really great mindset to have, but I could just see that it's constantly being tested. And how do you face that day-to-day grind of testing that mantra?
Yeah. Well, I think, one, it's really understanding what the mantra means to you, and really understanding what choosing joy means. I think there's a lot there I don't want to say misconception, because everybody gets to pick what they want, but for us, joy is a state. It's not necessarily like, check me out, I'm smiling. Yay. This is this is a state. So I don't and life is going to happen. So whatever it is that you're building has to be sustainable in a number of environments, right? Like otherwise it's going to crumble. You know, like it has to be foundational. So what I started, there are a couple actual like tactical practices that I've adopted that have really helped me stay focused and, you know, staying focused on that really, really clear message of what joy is for us. So part of what it is I have to be very clear to make sure to make room for the things that matter most for me. You know, and I've kind of coined that through, you know, making margin for what matters. I think oftentimes we get bombarded with other people's agendas, other people's important things. And it becomes really easy to lose sight of the things that are really going to be there when you need them and when you want them. So some of my main focuses every day are going to be, obviously there's work. Clearly we talked about, I carry a pretty solid workload.
Yes.
You know, so I have commitments to other people. Those are important for me to honor. I have commitments to myself. So there's like a self bucket. Each of these are buckets. Self, you know, and that could be something as easy as like giving myself time to listen to a podcast or to, you know, further my education, which, you know, comes in that way, or listening to music. Another is for my tribe. And that is encompassed by family and friends. So a way that I might be tending to my tribe might be a phone call during a commute, checking in with someone. Maybe it's, you know, sending a card, although I'm not a super great correspondent. I need to get better about that.
I love sending cards. I love snail mail. That's like my favorite.
I love getting them. So I don't know why I'm not better, you know, so I got to make that a priority, but that's the point. And then I prioritize it, right? So like I have time blocking is key for me.
Yes.
And so I have this process of I write a list of all the things that are in my head on one side. And then I create these buckets and then I pull from that list. And I'm like, okay, which of these things that are floating around in my head that need to get done, which bucket do they assign to? If they don't, perhaps they don't make it on my calendar, right? And then I assign a time to them. And not every day is perfect. Some days you don't get through it all good, no big deal. At least you've brought awareness to the things that are important. And you start noticing how much of my day was filling for the commitments and other people, how much of it was actually towards my tribe or towards myself or to the things that are actually going to help me avoid burnout and avoid resentment and, you know, just be fun. Like life should be fun too, you know? So that's a way that I use to really keep myself, you know, focused and clear. It gives me room to cut myself some slack, you know. I try not to build things right on top of each other. I try to give a little bit of space in between so that I'm not so anxious. That's a trigger for me. I've realized like transitions, moving from one thing to the next, you know, like getting the kids off into the car or whatever. Like those are like high stress points. So I try
you're not alone. Like, you're not alone in that. I'm not saying me. Wink, wink. Some other listeners or spouses, I would say, are struggle with transitions as well.
I mean, my kids are like, you know, they're like, uh-oh.
Yes.
You know, so I think it's an awareness tool so that you can make different choices.
I love it. So, you know, there's always haters out there, and I've always heard proponents like challenges to agency and joy setting is like, even me as a Black man, I'm very happy and I'm very upbeat, but then people are like, oh, you're so happy. Do you not know what's going on in the world and all that stuff? And I'm like, yes, I do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not naive. So how do you find a balance of projecting joy, feeling joy, sticking to joy, in regards to also making sure that, you know, obviously that you're aware of the challenges of the world, right? Like one of the biggest things I know with people that are happy and outwardly happy, even the Dalai Lama, is that how do you have a balance of internal happiness and knowing what's going on, but also not disregarding the troubles and suffering of the world? How do you have that balance? Or, I mean, and like I said, I'm not asking you no Dalai Lama question. I'm just saying personally, how have you found that balance? You know, please give me the answer, Meg, the second Dalai Lama. But you know what I'm saying? Like, how have you found that balance between being aware of what's going on? You know, we in COVID-19 right now. a lot of people say, yo, you so happy. Aren't you aware I can't go to work? How do you find that balance of finding that happiness, but also at the same time, I have some agency. Like, this is tough. I still choose, no matter what, I'm sticking to my mantra and I'm choosing joy.
Well, I think it's, a super valuable question. Think about the buckets that I just mentioned. Like, none of those are dependent on anything else in the rest of the world. Those are all things that I have found that help me maintain my own state of joy. If I'm able to maintain that, it actually strengthens me to be able to metabolize whatever outside things are coming in. And that's a huge part of it. Like, my joy, and that's my word. It could be anybody's, whatever that is, but like, that's my baseline. There's going to be things in my life that are going to take me above it, and that are going to take me below it. The point is, how quickly can I get back to my baseline? And that's how I find it manageable to absorb and take in all of the outside external things that are very important and right there and need to be discussed and handled. But that's not, like I said, my formula for joy is mine. It's like, those are the things that are important to me. And as long as I'm able to continue nurturing and feeding and growing those, I'm able to make sure my baseline stays where it needs to be. And now I can be the warrior that I need to be, or the shoulder or the whatever is required, because I'm stable. And that's something that's like, that's key for, parents. That's just like parenting, you hear about that, where it's like, there's always the, like, don't forget to take care of yourself first, or the empty pitcher. And you're like, yeah, I haven't slept in 3 days, but like, let's be real about all that. But, the formula is true. Yeah. If mom, if dad, if you guys aren't able to get a little time for you, you're not able to pour in other people. It's the same thing. So like, whatever those buckets are, it helps you fight another day.
And I love that, because I try to think about that real quick is, as a person of color and, Black man, I think that I've been more involved with social justice and advocacy, but at the same time of social justice and advocacy, I still need to take care of myself to do that, to like do the work and make the world a better place. I ain't gonna really want to make the world a better place if I'm not feeling good at myself, one. Right. And I think as I've learned and as I studied well-being, a key component to social justice, or making sure that everyone has life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is that ingrained in that is like, you have to focus on well-being to be a social justice advocate. So to think about that and making sure that people are happy, that is ingrained in what I feel is my purpose in helping people. So I definitely agree with that. So why has this been so important to you? I feel like this is a very important aspect, because obviously you focus the business around it, you focus your income around it, you focus your parenting around it. Like, why has this become like a key component or a very important like mantra for you in your life?
Yeah. I think just in general, it's important to reach for something. I think that we're at our best when we're growing, evolving, learning, improving. Joy is my desired state, but everyone gets to choose what to stretch for. That's the thing though, is like, I think joy can stand for a number of things. People, they just have to identify what that means for them. Like for me, like joy for me is like my family, friends, peace, security, laughter. It's freedom, it's spontaneity. These are all things that I prioritize and I make room for in my life and in my businesses, because they're key components to me enjoying and feeling as though I'm living my days to its absolute fullest and contributing with the very best that I have. Okay,
so one of the things I love is that you've gotten buy-in from other people, right? And the thing I think maybe I'm a surprise come out of here, like, what is one person that you've gotten buy-in from? You're like, wow, I really didn't expect this person to be on board with this, like that really threw you off. And then, just really encourage you that you're doing the right things. Because usually for me, I understand, like when I'm doing all this work with, Positive Philter and all that stuff, it's easy to say, yo, my friends are supporting me. When I get that most random, yo, person, like, I listened to your episode. I'm like, who is this? And that kind of sparked me, like, that maybe something I'm doing is bigger than my circle. So, like, can you just give me a story of someone that would jumped on board this and really surprised you, gave you that fuel to keep going?
Yeah, it's been a number of people that, to your point, were total strangers, or people that I had no idea were watching and following. And I think it's been conveyed in the most vulnerable way. I've had a number of people share their stories with me of saying, hey, listen, like, I'm seeing the path you're walking. This is mine. And pages upon pages of these stories that, I mean, I'm just like sobbing as I'm like reading through when you're hearing other people's stories, and where they made a decision, where they had a mindset shift and what that meant for them, and how they recognize that in our mind shift, and how they're grateful to see that it's being shared. And that was a very empowering thing for me. You know, my husband has said multiple times to me, he's like, Meg, you don't know how far your reach goes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important because, you know, I'm human. I have insecurities, and I get like, ooh, I don't know, like, is this right? Is this not right? Most importantly, I think the confidence has to come from within me, that what I'm doing is authentic and real.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do receive feedback that my story touched them, or my mission opened their eyes to how they were conducting business perhaps, or other pitfalls that they feel like perhaps they can avoid because of some of the, you know, stories that I've shared, that feels very worthy. And that's very inspiring and encouraging, and definitely helps me, like, you know, puts that fuel and, you know, and allows me to kind of keep pushing and driving. Because ultimately, like, I want to share what I've learned and what I have cultivated, what I've created, and I want to empower that for other people to do with it how they need to. You know, this is just a gift that I have been working to cultivate to be able to share.
Now, obviously, I think I see your website is so good. It's so clean. How did you structure this into a real business, this movement? And how do you, like, add structure, like, oh, I'm just going to be posting, or like, I'm really going to offer a service? And how did you switch from, this is just a, you know, personal thing for me, but now We Choose Joy is an actual formalized movement, a structured business. I have some service to offer. How did you tall-tail it? How did you go into that realm or path toward that?
Gosh, it took some brilliant professionals to help me. You know, because this was my personal story. But if anyone knows me, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. So, it's my love language. I think it's probably the best way to put it. Like, if I'm at a cocktail party, at a Christmas party, I'm going to find the other business owner in the room. It's guaranteed. And we're going to be like talking, but it was really hard because this was also my personal journey. And I really struggled in the beginning trying to find a voice that I felt comfortable with. I went to, linked up with Kim from Pattern of Purpose, who absolutely took me through this amazing facilitation that drew out all of the things that I was looking to do and what I felt was important and why I felt things were important. A good portion of the business model is actually built on, like, building resilient businesses that actually make room for life. That comes specifically from how close to burnout I've been so many times, and how much I would have lost had I not made changes to my life as far as really being able to live it. So through, you know, a good amount of time and through many iterations, she was really able to help me find the voice that I was having a hard time with. I'm a very strong advocate of finding the professionals to help you. You know, there's so much that I've done on my own, but there are so many things that I can't do in the way that I know I want to without pulling together the proper partners. And she was instrumental in that. And it was important for me to figure out too, that I was like, I have two audiences I'm talking to, and I want to be very clear, because I have my community that has always stood by us. And I don't want to have a message that doesn't relate to them, because we wouldn't be here without them. you know?
I love that.
And then I also have a community of entrepreneurs that I know firsthand might be at that place of burnout, might be at that place of like, I built this business from a passion that I love, and now I'm stuck underneath of it. Like I can't get to a place where I can live. I can't take vacation. I can't, I can't turn the computer off at 9:00 at night. And from that, my marriage is suffering. And my friendships are suffering because I don't have time to go on a girl's weekend. Don't you know how busy I am? You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. And I'm like, those completely tether for me. I don't think that you can separate life from the business owner. I don't believe in that. Like work-life balance really is what it's called. It's got to be integrated. We have to build the business to feed the life, not the life to feed the business.
I love that.
And that's what came out of just this brain dump of, that like Kim was brilliant enough to be able to like, okay, we're going to file that in this box over here, and we're going to put that here. And we built this beautiful narrative.
I love that. So I know obviously the business, money drives the business, but at the same time, you have a purpose. Like it's a business that's focused around, people and happiness and stuff. So how do you have a balance between bottom dollar success and then really success of helping people? Because what I'm saying, like, I could sell cool cigarettes. I could sell cigarettes or something like that, which is the bottom dollar is making me good, but I know I'm hurting people. So how do you find a balance between like really focusing on a business? The goal of a business is to make money, but how do you focus on purpose and making money at the same time?
Well, part of it is by building a business that's lean, that doesn't require so much money right off the front. So like part of it is I don't want to put so much pressure and infrastructure on this business that it puts me in a position as a business owner where I start accepting things that I perhaps wouldn't, or because I'm concerned about, going into the red. So part of it is, I like building businesses that are light and lean. And that make it possible for me to have as much flexibility as I can. I'm also very wary of putting myself into a situation where I'm simply exchanging time for cash. So what I want to be able to do is I want to build something that can be at least relatively evergreen, something that I can really pour into making once and then repeat. Now, my process is also a lot of like personal facilitation. So when I engage with clients, and this is whether or not this is individuals or teams, there's a facilitation period, and that's because like I've got to get hands-on. I've got to see what's going on and sort of read between the lines as well as like what's being shared. And then I want to be able to provide them with the information to do the work and to go for it, because I'm not coming in and I'm not like living in your business. You're going to have to figure out how to do this for yourself. But I want to be able to give you the clarity that you weren't able to see. Small business owners, half the time they don't work on their business is because they're so busy working in their business, and they can't slow down. And so they're like, what do you, like, I don't have time for that. And they don't. That's the biggest problem. They don't have time. So I've built a way to come in and basically be able to change the tire going 200 miles an hour so that I can come in real quick, go through some, exercises, put some information together so that they can like grab and go. And then of course I'm there for support. So again, these are all very like light and lean services and packages to be able to help them and also to make it obtainable. I'm very clear on who my audience is and what it is that their pain points are, because that has been the life I have lived and I understand it. So it's really a balance of me also, me knowing how much I can take on and what's a good fit. And there certainly have been, people that are like, I really want to do this. I'm just not sure. I need a push. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to push you like that.
Okay, yeah.
So,
right.
I don't know, phone a friend, but like, that's not my job. I need us to be aligned, and I don't want that responsibility, of you not being ready for the mindset shift or to be able to integrate the changes that we see. through evaluation. So I think I went really long in answering that question. I apologize.
Not at all.
Like,
not at all. Not at all. Because I'm like I'm trying to start a business myself. So basically I'm taking notes. So you give me some gems to think about. So no, talk as long as you want. But I think this is a good pivot into the segment of my show. I don't know if you're familiar, called Shot for Shot. Obviously we don't have no liquor right now, but maybe another time. But shot for shot means you get to ask me any question you want, randomly connected to the show or not, and I get to ask you a random question. Do you want to go first or I'll go first?
Why don't you go first? I want to get a vibe as to how.
Well, I definitely I make these up as I go along, as I listen to you, but I love the word bucket, right? So can you tell me 3 of your bucket fillers, not family, not anyone else, 3 of Meg's personal bucket fillers? What are your 3 bucket fillers, and just give us why they're your bucket fillers? I like
Absolutely.
that.
Totally. Oh, that's a good one. It's easy. I got this. All
okay.
right. So one of them, getting outside, nature for me. Just being, it took me actually a very bizarrely long time to figure out that was a huge part of who I am, but getting to be outside and be in nature. I mean, not necessarily like hugging trees, but, just like walking and and just being around those elements is very, very calming for me. So nature is a big one. Music is another really big one. I work with music in the background all the time. But I have like different vibes. Like if I'm typing or if I'm writing a blog, I absolutely have to only listen to like music scores or classical music, because I will for sure type the words I'm hearing in the music.
Okay.
Like, that doesn't work.
I get that. Okay.
So like it's got to be, strictly instrumental. If I need to change my mood, I'm picking certain songs. I mean, the girls are like, oh, mom's on a dance break, and that's fine. So music is another one. And for me, podcasts and I don't read very well. I am dyslexic. So podcasts and Audible. I love you, Audible. Anyone who says I'm not really reading, if I'm listening to an Audible, I will challenge you to a duel, because I am reading.
Oh no, man! I'm an audio learner too. Maybe not because I'm dyslexic, but surprise, surprise, I have ADHD, and so I don't like standing still. So I love the fact that with the podcast similar to you, I'm definitely like that. Or Audible, I could turn it on in the background and do other stuff. But the way my mind works is like, people, there's no such thing as multitasking. But me, if I hear things, I retain information. So that's how I retain information. I'm an audio learner. So I definitely, I can speak Audible. If you want to holler at your boy and sponsor me, I'm down, because I definitely, I'm an audio. I use Audible and podcasts for my learning style as well.
Yep. Yeah,
so,
it's been awesome.
Yeah. All right, your turn. You get to ask me one.
All right. So tell me about this business.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it's the same thing. I'm just trying to turn it's Positive Philter, but what I think the podcast, the business is not a podcast. It's just basically taking my knowledge of helping people prepare for careers and then getting paid for it. I've done a lot of time where my job at Mason is looking at students' resumes, cover letters, preparing them for interviews, all those different things. I'm really good at it. I'm not going to dance around it. I've been really successful helping students get jobs at my job at Mason. So I want to just be able to provide that side hustle for myself. I also want to use like the helping prepare people for careers, but also kind of have a side part of that too, is my public speaking and getting paid for speaking engagements. So that is going to be Positive Philter, same thing, the podcast, but mainly one-on-one career coaching as well as public speaking. That is my idea, and that's what I want to kind of monetize it and monetize my pre-existing skills. Just, I don't know, I've always struggled at how to get started. I didn't struggle getting started with this podcast. I just did it. I didn't really struggle with, that's pretty much, I didn't struggle to get this podcast started, but it's been a long time figuring out how to turn this into a structured business with that side hustle part, actually getting clients or asking clients how much are they going to pay for my resume help, or how much they're going to pay me to come speak. I've gone to speak I'm good at, like I told you earlier, I could talk to 1,000, 500, I don't care. But how do you say to someone, yo, trust me, I'm good at speaking, please pay me, so that is where I'm in that development phase right now. of how do I, do that and turn myself into a brand. So
that's a real thing, though. I mean, being able to take an idea, the ideas are easy. It's getting them, it's actually initiating them. It's so funny. So I'm in this. Are we still doing shot for shot? Should I stop talking?
No, you can do whatever you want. You answered my question. If you feel like giving me another question, sure, I don't care. But I don't. That's the part. This part is the freestyle part. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I belong to a executive women's group, and we were chatting yesterday. And one of my areas that I struggle with, that I have to constantly be honing, is I over innovate. So I have an idea, and then I continue to tweak and adjust and whatever, and I don't let it get out into the world. And I need to activate my integrate. I've got to make that stronger. And so everyone was joking me and giving me a hard time, helping me reframe this problem, which is a really good exercise in reframing and re-looking at things. And I decided, I was like, I have to come up with an alter ego. This has to be like my Sasha Fierce of like portion of the business, of being like, once you've gotten past this part, you got to let it go. Megan doesn't get to touch that anymore. This other person comes in. Yeah. Eventually that'll be something I hire for. So I can, I can get there, but until the company can do that, you have to do that. But it was important for me to identify the different roles so that I knew how to fill it.
Well, I mean, I guess your persona, this idea man, I'm the idea man. Yeah. But I have my work wife, shout out to Dorothy. But I got the ideas, and then legit, like, they're a little off the wall. I need someone that's like the structured person. Like, I'm the mouth. Like, I'm the voice, I'm the mouth, I'm the idea person. And then I need someone that's like the behind the scenes accountant, you know what I'm saying? Like, like the typer, like that. And I'm still working on that, because like I get such big ideas, and then I get someone that comes back to me and says, did you think about this, and the detail part? I'm like, no. Like, not at all. No, for sure. No, like,
there's an amazing book. I think it's called like Innovator and Integrator. I'll have to look it up. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
But it talks about like it's no different than you look at any business. You've got a marketing department, you've got an operations department.
Yes.
These are natural built checks and balances, right?
Yes.
Marketing is like, for sure, we can sell it all. And operations is like, how am I fulfilling that? Like, how's that going to happen?
Yeah.
And so that's the way businesses have been built, is to be able to fill those gaps and fill those holes. And as a solopreneur, you are doing that. So then
that's what I was about to say.
Yeah. Are you going to subcontract that out? Are you going to learn how to do those things yourself?
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest benefits and one of the best things you can do, though, is be profiling it, like writing it down, documenting it, so that when it comes time to bring on that partner, it's really clear what their role is going to be.
Yeah.
And that way you're not like, oh, this person seems cool, I bet they could. You're saying, these are the things I need. Can you? You know, and it's much clearer.
I'm gonna do an exercise after I get off, as I'm gonna think of myself as, like a legit teams, the different teams of a business. And I'm pretty sure that the marketing team, as myself, my marketing team, my ideas and innovation team, and all those different teams. I think the team that my inner team that I need to work on is my operations team.
Yeah, it's funny. It's
like if I put myself into like my own business model, man, whatever, and divided myself, I think my other teams and broadcasting myself and not being nervous, that's there. But I need the operations team. I need a logistics team. I probably even need a sales team, like individual,
because you got to backfill all those, promises or whatever you're putting out there. But so it's funny. So one of the things that I do, and this was what, I've been working with a leadership coach for the past 3 years, in addition to the executive group that I'm part of. But they always do a test. It's called a core value, CVI, core value assessment, core value index. You can look it up, and you can get like the cheap, like for free. It'll spit out a top level read on you. But basically what it is it's similar to a Myers-Briggs, except instead of it being like, how do you respond in certain circumstances? This is, who are you at your core?
Mm.
And the reason this is important, and this is something that I use when I'm working with teams or companies, particularly as we're working to build culture, is finding out, is everybody in the role that is
Yeah.
truest to who they are at their core, because they're
Yeah.
going to be more naturally successful,
Yeah.
excited, and ownership minded if they are in that place.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take this little test, it'll pop up. There's 4 different sections.
Mm-hmm.
One is merchant, which is probably what you are. I'm a very high merchant as well, which is like the love in the room, the people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, very aware, typically good salespeople, you know, that kind of thing. Then there's innovator. That's going to be somebody who is able to see things, you know, miles down the road. They're able to see the potential. They're able to cast what that would look like. They're good problem solvers too. You've got banker. That's going to be your data person. That's the person that's like, I couldn't possibly make a decision without all the information, you know, like I won't even, you know, as we're like, what do you mean? Just make a gut call. And they're like, you're crazy. No, I need to know all of the SKUs. Right. And then you've got a builder, and that's the person that's like, I know that if I put in all of my energy, I can get it done. Like push. And when you start seeing yourself broken into some of those areas, like I'm very high merchant, very high innovator, which makes total sense. But that means I desperately need a banker and a builder, or components of those things to help really make us fly. And when you look to build a team based on your weaknesses and based on your differences, not just like, oh, he's cool, you know, and not hire in your likeness. That's what a lot of people will do. Be like, oh, we're totally the same. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Now you've got 2 people that are trying to do the same thing.
Right. And that's very interesting, because we use strengths, you know, Clifton strengths. And so we use that, like, are you in your wheelhouse of using your strengths? And I'm definitely going to try that one out too, because I think one of the launching periods, as we know, just even with career counseling, is when you have awareness of self, then you put a plan. So you need to, like, before I talk to students, I say we need to do some self-assessment. Like, what do you like? What are your interest, skills before we do this? So I need probably, this is one of those things where I need to practice what I preach and put that internally. I can easily help someone else with these aspects, but I need to apply that to myself.
Well, it's hard. It's really hard. I mean, I think oftentimes that's why I'm a fan of seeking outside help and contracting that and getting that leverage, because it's like having somebody else edit your paper, you know, like you've been looking at it one way. And also, and I'm not a process person. Like I'm a creative, I'm a here, but like you start putting processes to things and all of a sudden they just start happening and you're not even thinking about it. And like, if you were to start putting some order to like you said, to make it easier for you to practice what you preach, like you all of a sudden you just adopt it, but you just have to create the flow.
I love that.
You know, that's why I've been dedicated to the buckets and the timeline and the journal, and all, I mean, that's what I call it. I call it a journal. So that it will actually be like published here soon and something that people will be able to share. But once I put that into motion, I don't even think about it now. And it's such an easy way for me to be able to look and be like, cool, I'm taking care of all the things that are important to me. Good for you, you know?
Sheesh. I mean, you hit us with some flames. I mean, I definitely think this was I learned some, took notes for myself. So whatever, regardless of how many people listen, I benefited. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I don't care, man. If we get like 2 listeners, who cares? I learned something and I'm going to use it for myself. So, but this is the portion of the show we're kind of finishing out. It's called shout outs and plugs. So shout outs and plugs means shout out anyone, show some love, whoever, shout out anyone, could be business partners, friends, family, who cares? And then plugs, particularly plugs as social media handles or ventures or any way the listeners can follow up with you, because I will make sure to put those in the show notes. So stage is set, you know, talk however you want, shout outs and plugs.
I mean, first shout out would have to go to my tribe, and, you know, and that is comprised of family and friends that have just fueled everything and been there for me in all sorts of different areas. It'd have to be every single one of the business partners I've ever had. All of them have been a huge influence into my life and where things have gone forward, as well as all of my business mentors. And all these people know exactly who they are, and all the opportunities that I have. Obviously, we're going to have to call out by name the Hardmans, because if it wasn't for them, then we would not be friends.
Yes.
It would have taken us longer to find each other. That's for sure. You know, so
I mean,
think
unless I was walking around loud and just randomly. Right?
Yeah, you never know.
With a sign that says "We choose joy," and they'd be like, "What? Dang, that's crazy. That's my
you
business."
Do that, I'll find you. But no, I think that every single person that's been on our path is all contributing to our future, and that I have not done anything alone. It has been with the power of a lot of great people. As far as where to find me, so we can go to wechoosejoy.com, sign up for the newsletter there, because I'll be sending out stuff that are just, updates, good missions, hopefully events and things once we're able to kind of break out of our quarantine shell and that's safe. And then my Instagram is @Meg Pollard. So feel free to follow me there. And I think that's probably the best way to connect with me.
And that's great. I think this is great. As you said, I love the hashtag. I look at it. I randomly see your wonderful family and just the wonderful things you are truly admitting positivity. And I know I was one of those random people that slid in the DMs and just said randomly, I've been keeping in touch with what you've been doing, and you brought me some joy and really, helped me when I was going through a tough time, as I shared with you earlier. And that, I've definitely put in place those habits that you talked about to take a little bit of agency for myself. So the movement that you're doing, it doesn't fall on deaf ears. It's very powerful. It's very special. And I definitely encourage anyone out there just to follow up. If you don't need business help, please just follow up and soak in the message that she's sharing through the newsletter and just omitting positivity that she's doing with her presence and her platform. So please take her up on this, and all the things that we're going to put in the show notes. And I'm just very fortunate and blessed to have you on the show. I told you I was going to let you go. I was going to bother you. I don't know if it was a year. I was going to pop up out of nowhere. I was going to send you emails. I was going to send you Facebook messages because I wanted your platform. I wanted your voice to be shared on my positivity platform, because I think it just so closely aligns with what we're both doing. So I don't know, man. I was going to, if you didn't answer me, I probably was going to get a hashtag, a sign, and walk out there with the mask on that said, "We choose joy," until someone take a picture of me and send it to you. Say, there's a crazy man out here in Loudon.
Yeah.
Huh?
No.
Yeah. Do you know this guy? It's like, "Hi, it's me, Philip Wilkerson." But I love what you're doing, and just keep it up. I hope, don't ever let that go. Keep that up. Keep that motto regardless. Listeners, please share this episode with your family and friends. Please follow Positive Philter, filter spelled with a PH, on all the different social media. You can leave a voicemail for the podcast at 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. This is great. Please follow with Meg on all those things, and we're out. Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.